Welcome back to Project GS. Today I'm going to show you what's involved in removing and overhauling the front brake calipers. Now the GS uses the same calipers as the RT and a few other machines, but basically the system I'm employing is pretty much standard for any brake caliper. But yeah, so I'm going to show you what's involved. Now the first thing, loosen these nuts here, then loosen that nut there, the where the brake pipe goes into the caliper. Now obviously when you take that off, fluid is going to come out, so take measures to prevent the fluid from running all over the floor. If you look in a minute, I'll show you a picture of what you can do. You can insert a bolt with two copper washers in the hose to prevent losing too much fluid. So then you can remove the caliper for as long as you need without the worry of the fluid all draining out. The next thing on these particular calipers, these bolts here. Now obviously when you take these bolts apart, or when you take them out, the two halves of the caliper come apart. So you've got to be really careful that you don't take one bolt out, then the next, because that can distort the caliper. What you have to do is loosen it, loosen it, loosen it, loosen it, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, like you do with a cylinder head or something like that, so that the two halves separate cleanly. They don't end up warping, because if you get a warped caliper, it can be a bloody nightmare when you come to rebuild, as I'll show you a bit later on. So basically I'm going to do that now, and then we'll be in a position where we can remove the caliper from the fork legs. There you can see I put a nut and bolt in with two copper washers either side. That will prevent any fluid from escaping from that pipe, because it makes a mess. Even if you're going to re-bleed it, it just makes a mess when it drips over everything. Now remove these two bolts there, and then you can then just ease the caliper off the disc. The reason why I'm overhauling this one, as you can see, is it's grabbing. It's grabbed onto the disc, it doesn't want to let go, which is the reason why it's being rebuilt, because it should actually just slide off. Like that. And now to the bench. Now remove these, as I said, bit by bit, to break the caliper apart. As you can see, it's a rubber O-ring. It's essential that this face doesn't distort, because if it distorts, when the two halves go back together, they won't marry up, and then you get leaks from here. So it's essential. So now what you need to do now is to pull the pistons out, so that then you can remove the seals and replace the seals. So, after a full morning of cleaning, you've got all of the parts laid out, ready for inspection. Inspection means you've got to look at every single bit in great detail. I mean, obviously the seals are going to be replaced. The pistons are going to be looked at, because if the pistons have got any marks on them, they'll also be scrapped. So let's have a look. Here's one of the videos. Here's one of the pistons. Look at the state of that. That is horrendous. No wonder the bloody thing was seizing up and leaking and doing all horrible things. That piston is horrendous. Here's one of the other ones. Really do get the camera to focus. But all the coating has come off. I mean, those marks, they'll allow leakage, sticking, all sorts of grief. So basically this caliper needs new pistons and new seals. With these calipers, it's essential that the edges, these edges here, mate, because there's one O-ring which seals between the two. So what you need to do with it like this, hold them together up against the sun or against the sky, bright light, to see whether they are flat. They must be perfectly flat. If not, they're either scrap or you'll have to reface them. I've just done that with these, and these are perfect. So a new O-ring there will have these perfect. So what you do now, you clean it all up, and I polish those bits there, or sand them so that they're polished, because after it's painted you can scrape the paint off and you'll get that shining against the background. Notice they're now on a baking tray. There's a reason for that. So paint them, then carefully place on a baking tray.
See you later. Bye.
Oven on to 100 degrees. Perfect for tea tonight. And there they are once they've been cooked. Painted them with paint that responds to the heat from the oven. Whatever you do, don't tell the missus. What I'm going to do now, this bit here, I'm going to scrape the paint off, and then that'll leave that as a shiny emblem with Brembo. Makes it look nice. And then we're waiting then for the kit to arrive with the pistons and the seals, and then we'll rebuild it. And there, a little bit later, the paint's scraped off and you've got the Brembo logo. Looks nice. There you go, there is the kit. The kit for one caliper, which we're going to be doing. One of the calipers is already done, but we're going to now do the other caliper. I'll show you what's involved. Now, I'm cleaning this up at the minute, so I'm going to be finishing off in a second. Then, on the other side, we've got the two things, seals and pistons. So what you've got to do, you've got to use the oil provided on the seals so that the seals are wet with oil. Cover the pistons in oil or brake fluid. I normally dip mine in brake fluid so that they'll slide in without actually catching, because otherwise you'll find that they'll stick. And then build them up, push them back together, and then we'll join the two halves and fit them back on the bike. Join these together and then look up into the sky or at a bright light. I know it sounds a bit primitive, but if it's like that, potentially, you know it's warped. If it's like that, you know it's warped. If it's dead flat, you won't get any light through it. That is perfect. That is a perfect pair of faces. Right, so look at the kit. There's the oil, it's a silicone oil, so that's quite slippery. So put the nicely lubricated, easily fitted. So now all you've got to do now is slide the pistons in. But what I normally do before I slide the pistons in, just give the pistons a little bath in fluid, because then that gives them oil that they can easily slide in. Look at that, look, so nice. There you go, done. And they will not stick, because when you use them, when you bleed them and they start using, that oil will allow the pistons and the seals to slide against each other. If you don't oil it, the pistons will stick, and of course then you get a grabbing break, or you won't even be able to bleed the thing out properly. So this is essential when you're building the calipers, that you have to use this fluid, this oil. Make sure they don't go together dry, because if they do, you're going to get loads of grief. Loads. Right, when you're joining these together, it's essential. Put the O-ring in there. The other part of the caliper must go on top, but you mustn't push that down onto that O-ring. You must allow it to come down smoothly and gently. So here's an easy way to do it. Put that like that. Put that in there like that, and just allow them to come together, and then just wind that down, not until it's tight, until it actually just bottoms there, and then that one, and then the two faces are together then. And what you can do then is you can get the other two bolts and do the same with them. See, so nothing can now move. And now they're done up. So then snip them. Nip them, nip them, nip them. Right, now for torque wrench, guys, now is when you torque them. I wouldn't. Well, in fact I don't. I only use a torque wrench on an engine. I know that most people would freak out big time. Torque. But mate, I've only been doing this for 50 years, so I'm not really worried about whether it's at the right torque or not. I'll just do it up until it's tight. It ain't going to come apart. I've done enough of them in my life that well, this one's going up a little bit more. That's it. That's tight. You haven't over tightened it? No. I haven't over tightened it? Haven't I? No. Ain't going to come apart? No. There you go. That's finished. We put the pads in and fit it back on the bike, and then we're going to bleed it. That then will be the completion of brake caliper overhaul. The next video I'm going to do a video on how to bleed the brakes, so then you can see what's involved with bleeding the brakes. If you get any grief, then hopefully it'll help you. Okay? Switch it in.